Welcome to the NFT and Web3 podcast, where we explore the exciting and ever evolving world of blockchain technology and its impact on art, finance, education, and other industries. Our guest is the Director of Fellowship and Protocol Relations at Lucky Friday Labs, Teddy, or well known as Phunky One. And welcome, Teddy.
Thanks so much, everybody. I'm really happy to be here, Damsky, and look forward to the conversation very much.
All right. So, for starters, can you tell us about your background and what led you to your current role as Director of Fellowship at Lucky Friday?
Yeah, sure. I sort of landed in Web3 full time just recently. Back in November of last year, I was hired by Lucky Friday Labs to become the Director of Fellowship and Protocol Relations. Part of my job is to do outreach work to parachains in our ecosystem here in Polkadot. And then, of course, we're starting to go into Cosmos and other places too. So a lot of what I do as the protocol relations piece is just reaching out to see if there's opportunities for us to build infrastructure, to run validators, collators, that sort of thing. But then the fellowship piece is really where I'm going to be known more as the head Teddy for Teddy DAO, which I'm sure we're going to talk about at length. But I'm a former teacher of nearly 20 years. And so I just kind of have this very friendly kind of vibe about me that everybody seems to love. And just been enjoying meeting people. And I think that's kind of how I landed in the role because I've been in the Polkadot ecosystem now for a little over 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, or pushing close to that. And so just making relationships is kind of what got me into the role and just knowing a lot of people in the ecosystem. And I'm just happy to help educate others and do a lot of interesting things with NFTs in particular.
All right. So, would you say your role is like more technical or more community oriented?
I'm definitely the community guy because every time, sometimes the conversations get too technical, I have to turn around and go to the team and be like, I have no idea what this means. So it's really interesting for me as a former teacher because I'm just a general nerd. I taught a lot of different subjects. I like learning things every day. So I feel like I've surrounded myself with people who are way smarter than me. And so every day is a learning opportunity, which I really love.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm wondering what did you teach or where did you teach?
So I taught high school. I taught at every level. I started in language arts, so I was teaching English, reading, that kind of stuff. My first 5 years. Then I taught social studies courses like advanced placement human geography and world history, philosophy honors, world religions. I taught all that stuff for 6 years. Then I went and taught mathematics for a little bit. And then I stepped out of the classroom to work as a new teacher mentor where I worked with first and second year teachers. That was really fun, but it made me realize how much I missed the classroom dynamics. So I went back to the classroom, and my final 5 years or so before I left teaching completely, I was teaching a class called Theory of Knowledge for the International Baccalaureate Program. It's like a sort of low level epistemology course, and that was a ton of fun. I was really bright students. And yeah, so I taught a little of everything. Again, just sort of, and I have an insatiable curiosity about life. So I would get bored and I would just want to go to a different subject and teach something else because I'd have to learn it in the process so I could teach it to the students.
All right. So you probably have a very close to, let's say, also teaching people how to learn. So, what's your preferred way to learn new things?
Honestly, just by doing them. I realize there's only a certain amount of value in conveying instructions verbally. It's something about doing the action itself that it really sticks in your brain much better than just trying to like convey something through reading or whatever. I mean, I try and learn through as many modalities as possible, but I think actually doing something, like a case in point, right? Like, as someone who is new to crypto, I was in the first bull run back in like 2017, that's when I kind of got involved, but then I didn't pay attention during the bear market. And when I came back in 2020, thinking that a lot of this was going to happen all over again, what really helped me was just being forced to learn how to learn these technologies, like downloading a wallet and doing all these things to where I was taking my tokens into my own custody. And every bit of the way, it seemed like I was learning something new. We have amazing wallets now in our ecosystem. Like when I first saw Polkadot.js, I'm not gonna lie, in like the summer of 2020, I was like, "What is this?" Like I had seen MetaMask, and I was kind of used to that. And then I saw JS, and but thank goodness we have Talisman and Nova and all these great, wallets now in the ecosystem. But I really think that when it comes to learning, it's trial by fire. That's the best way to go, is actually, and of course we all lose tokens in the process, send them to the wrong address, whatever that case may be. But actually doing the action, I think, is really what cements learning.
Awesome. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, it's like one of my favorite ways to learn also. It's basically by trial and error, right? And repeat and just then making it successful. So let's go a little bit to the Teddy DAO. So can you tell me what it is, what's the purpose, how people can get in, what's your role there?
Sure. Yeah. And actually, I'm most excited to talk about this thing in particular because Teddy DAO. Our founder of Teddy DAO is the same founder of Kusama Kingdom, David Chapman, otherwise known as KBL. He knew that he had something special with the model of Kusama Kingdom, with just slowly releasing the pieces instead of just minting them all at once. And so what we did, we're launching this on Moonbeam. We had a Moonbeam grant that basically bootstrapped the whole thing. We've been working on this, or David and the team had been working on it since May, before I came along in November. So my role is going to be the head Teddy. I'll be sort of the biggest cheerleader in the group. As someone who is a former teacher, I think that's really what I do well, is build community, whether it's in a classroom or a Discord server or what have you. And so we opened up the Discord server pretty early on, which, and I was trying to do these do good challenges as the head Teddy, because there are so many ways that we can all give back. And that's really the purpose of TeddyDAO. At the end of the day, it's all about charity and promoting social good in the world. So what he did was take that idea of the slow mint mechanic, and we have Yumi, which I'm sure everybody who watches this knows Yumi. For instance, Yumi Arts. She's very famous in the Polkadot ecosystem as an NFT artist, and she does pixel art. And so I'm gonna grab my hat real quick. So she created all of these little 8-bit digital teddy bears. They're 256 pixels. And the way it works, it's actually a fork of the Nouns DAO contract, where one teddy is minted every single day, and it will just randomly assemble the images. And so what ends up happening, she made enough assets to where you'd have over 4 million permutations. Because there's only one minted every day, it would take over 11,000 years for all the teddies to be minted. So what we thought was, we have a really important partner in all this too. It's Just Giving. So Just Giving is the second biggest online donation platform in the world, and they are working with us to kind of roll this out. And that's the reason that we've been sort of held up, is just kind of it's a bigger Web2 company. And though the smart contract has been audited and we're ready to go, we're still just trying to tie all the loose ends together to get the big PR push. So hopefully we will be launching this month. And then once the smart contract goes live, everybody will bid in Glimmer. We have educational videos coming from the folks at WAG Media, because we're not only trying to get people who are in Web3 already to actually donate. I mean, most people are already giving donations to organizations that they want, and that's the benefit of Just Giving. There's access to over 100,000 charities in their network. So when people actually go to place their bid in Glimmer, they can manually choose which charity he or she wants. If that person ends up being the winning bidder, then virtually 100% of the funds go to the charity. Because, I mean, there's, a little bit of slippage, of course, because we have to convert the Glimmer to fiat and then send that over to Just Giving, and Just Giving gets it to the specific charity in question. But basically it gives people the customizability of choosing which charity they want to support. And if they're the winning bidder, then they get the TeddyDAO NFT. And then what's really interesting, theoretically, about 3.5 months after launch, when we get to 100 bears, we'll begin our actual DAO governance. So at that point, those who are Teddy holders will basically be able to vote on proposals. We started off with a very small 5% royalty in the smart contract that gets directed to a treasury wallet. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, though these are for charity, there's still NFTs. People are still going to be interested in the aesthetics of a certain bear, and they might want it, they might want to get it, or people might want to flip them to recoup their donation money. And all of those royalties go straight to a treasury wallet that the DAO will control. And then every quarter, the bear holders, will get to vote on, okay, whatever pile of money is in that treasury wallet, we're either going to send it to a single charity, or maybe we'll vote and discuss. Maybe we send it to multiple charities, but ultimately the DAO will have the flexibility to actually send more charity money through secondary sales. And you also get a tax break. We're registering as a 501(c). So, like, if you're in the States or maybe other jurisdictions where you can get a tax benefit for making a donation, that'll apply to, not to secondary sales, of course. But theoretically, we want TeddyDAO to ultimately be sort of a perpetual donation machine where we're just constantly giving money to charity. And then hopefully the people who are in the Discord will partake in those little do good challenges, just small social initiatives. I was doing really simple things like, I cleaned up my street, for instance, or I said, call somebody that you love. Right? We live in this world where it's so hard to keep up with our family, and maybe there's somebody that hasn't heard from you in a long time. Just giving a call to that person might do a world of good for him or her. So those little social challenges will probably start ramping up as we as the Discord gets more lively. Right now there's only maybe 50 or 60 people in there, but we're looking forward to having more people join once the contract launches, because I think there's going to be a big PR push too. So once the news starts getting out about TeddyDAO, I have a funny feeling that the Discord is going to get real active real quick.
All right, that's really good to hear. I definitely have some questions around that. So first one is, if I understand it correctly, then the treasure is made of basically Glimmer tokens, right?
Yeah, everything is done in Glimmer. So because it's being minted on Moonbeam, you will. There's actually two. There's for people who are Web3 natives, they're going to know what to do. But then we also have really simple instructions for like how to download a Talisman wallet, how to buy. Talisman was great in terms of working with the TeddyDAO team to ensure that people could translate their fiat into Glimmer, so they can just buy Glimmer on a credit card and then make their donation. And if they don't win, then they still have the Glimmer to continue to bid on a bear until they're able to get a donation, because we have no idea what these things are going to go for. I'm prepared to bid on bear number one, and so, but somebody could swoop in, and we're also, we're trying to think of ways to hopefully encourage parachain teams themselves to own a bear and maybe have like make a significant contribution to a charity of their choice, and then kind of display their bear as a badge of honor. So there's a lot of things that are going to happen. I'm personally hoping that we start small, because I'd rather have everyday people get in with simple donations of $20, $50, something that's very affordable. Because I have a funny feeling that if there is a secondary market that develops and these things start going for more money, then it's going to raise the floor on the initial donation, and which is great, right? Like, it's a positive flywheel, but it also eliminates some people who might just be able to get a bear in the beginning with a small donation. So fingers crossed that the bears, kind of get slept on at first, and we can get some really strong community folks in there for, not a massive donation, but just be able to hold a bear and people who are interested in the project and not flipping it. I will tell you that anybody on the team, myself included, of course, we are not doing any kind of secondary sales. We don't believe that's the point of TeddyDAO. TeddyDAO is all about donations, but we're also realistic, because again, they're still NFTs. People are going to want a certain look, a certain aesthetic for their bear. And there's also customizability too. We have, one of our devs is he works part time for Lucky Friday, but many of you probably know Hash Warlock from Thala. And so, he kind of coded the smart contract in such a way where we can insert a custom bear. So parachain teams or anyone else really could get a custom bear for, X amount. And that bid, of course, is going to be substantially higher, but that doesn't guarantee you win it either. That's the crazy part. So, like, if you're someone who really likes a parachain and the parachain wants a custom bear and you outbid the parachain team, you get the bear. So we could see some kind of interesting shuffling, jockeying for certain bears, especially with the customized ones, which is great, because at the end of the day, the only person who the real winner is the charity, not the individual who gets the bear. So
All right, I see. Another thing that comes up regarding this, like if I think about like the way this could get like much bigger and the treasury itself would rise, have you thought about like, for example, the Glimmer token volatility and maybe how to prevent this kind of like drops and up and downs?
Well, I mean, we haven't really because we haven't seen what how people react to the bidding process itself, nor have we seen sort of like we don't even know, what the initial floor is going to look like in terms of like we didn't want to put a minimum bid. Like we really we talked about this a lot, and we thought should we do a minimum bid of 10 Glimmer, which is roughly, I don't know, $4 or $5 or something like that. And the more we talked about it, our bigger concern was if we just hard code a minimum bid into the contract, what's 10 Glimmer like in the future? Because theoretically, this is going to be running for many years. 10 Glimmer might be a more expensive proposition down the road. So we just kind of left it as no minimum bid. So theoretically, anybody can get in and we won't have any of these challenges. But I guess it all remains to be seen once we launch. And if it goes up and down, that's fine because at the end of the day, if somebody can get a bear for less, but still a reasonable donation, but still become part of the DAO because they're interested and they want to do good and help others, that's fine by all of us at Lucky Friday.
I see, I see. Okay. When we are talking about community creation and those, for example, fresh DAOs like you are part of, what are steps to create a great community that have that has the values that you want them to have?
I mean, I'm going to answer this question from my experience as a teacher. I think you have to first and foremost have a very welcoming presence, right? You have to have a community who also, and this is, I think, one of the reasons why they wanted me to be head Teddy, is I tend to be very positive, very encouraging. Honestly, that's why I got into NFTs in the first place, because as a teacher, it always bothered me when I saw really creative and talented students be told, go to college, get a regular job. You're never going to do anything with your art. And I think one of the things that attracted me to NFTs so early on was that they are artists who could actually like make a living doing this. And so I sort of became known as this very positive encourager. And I want to take that same spirit into Teddy DAO, right? At the end of the day, much like my classroom, I wanted students to feel that they were safe. I wanted students to feel that they were respected, that their ideas were valuable, that their input was important. And that's going to be the same thing that's going to happen in Teddy DAO, because I think with myself setting the tone, and I already know some of the people who are in there frequently and GMing, and even though it's not terribly active, we have some great people in there already. So I think we already have a strong community backing of fellow like-minded people who are very positive and want to give back. So I think the hope is that once people step into Teddy DAO, even if they're not a Teddy DAO holder, we want to try and get them to feel that space is something where we're trying to foster social good and just help others. I mean, at the end of the day, we all know how difficult life can be. It's a struggle for many people, and I have my pinned tweet is on my profile is just be nice. Like life is so hard for so many people. Like don't make it worse for them. Just be nice to people. It's not all that hard. So I think that's going to be the mission of Teddy DAO, is just to spread a lot of love, a lot of positivity, and just do good however we can. And so that starts with me as the head Teddy, and hopefully, and I'm quite confident actually that some of the people who are already in there are going to help carry that mission forward.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I totally agree with you that not everybody has easy conditions, and by being nice, you can just at least make somebody happy, right? Um,
Hmm.
when we are talking about the Teddy DAO and its plans in the future, so what can we expect maybe in the upcoming years or weeks or months?
So I'm I guess I don't know if it's an alpha leak, if you will, right? But like we have big plans. David KBL, our founder, and I, and the rest of the Lucky Friday team are motivated to do something much greater than just the teddy bears themselves. So, part of what we hope will happen is that because we're still kind of buttoning up the legal process of becoming a 501c ourselves, But if Teddy DAO can get big enough where people are just donating directly to Teddy DAO to get a bear, and we kind of create like a large treasury, we would really love to do things that are significantly impactful, like opening a school in Africa, or drilling wells, or, like one of our founders from our parent fund, Silvermine Capital, he has traveled everywhere. This is a reason why, like, our two main founders of Silvermine Capital are very big on wanting to do social good. Life has treated them well. They want to pay it forward. And Tom, in particular, like, he's been to Africa. He's helped dig wells in villages. He's done all this really meaningful kind of philanthropic work. And so we would like Teddy Dow, maybe someday. I don't think it's going to happen in a year or two, but if it keeps going, or maybe if we just get enough enough coverage in the media, and people, like, if ETH people start seeing this, and they like, I'm not kidding, Damsky, these hats were flying off the table. Everybody loved the logo. Everybody loved the white. People just thought, like, what is Teddy DAO? And everybody we talked to at ETH Denver was like, wow, that's really interesting. That's really cool, because there hasn't been an NFT initiative that is focused solely on charity and sustainable, right? Like, we see these flashes in the pan where it's like, hey, we're going to do, these NFTs. And this was part of the idea, because when KBL, he did something for the Queens. When Kusama Queens, the Queens are coming out, they donated, I think, $15,000 on the sale of one Queen, and that all went to charity. And so, that's kind of where he started getting this idea about how powerful it would be if we can actually use NFTs for charity, solely for that purpose. And then if we grow this big enough to where we can have significant kinds of impacts, especially in places in the world that really need help, right? I mean, in those developing countries where people just don't have basic sanitation or basic, rudimentary education, whatever it may be, we have grand plans. That's the dream, right? Is to build schools, dig wells, do things in places where we're really going to have a significant impact and leave something for future generations. In addition to just, the Teddy DAO minting for 11,000 years, theoretically.
Yeah, I mean, these are great values that, for example, we as coders want to focus also on. So, for example, that's why we had a campaign that for basically every mint, if you decide to pay $1 extra, you basically plant a tree in Portugal, right? So we are just trying to offset a little bit of that carbon and help, for example, the Portugal a little bit with their nature and so on. So I'm definitely in a big support of these initiatives. And I think they play a big role in the Web3 space, because if you look at common good projects or social good projects, if we can call them like that, they just have the values from the beginning, and that's what matters in my opinion.
Hmm.
And plus if you have a good physical merch, then that's just awesome, you know.
Yeah, it was
I
crazy.
mean, yeah, I mean, I know the feeling because when we started doing custom T-shirts with Codedot, like with the anime creatures and characters. I mean, a lot of people were really crazy after them, and basically interconnecting NFTs with physical merch. Then that's just awesome. And in your case, when you have a good feeling about actually having a beer and just some custom design, I think that's awesome initiative. All right. So we are slowly getting to an end of this podcast, but I would like to ask you one final question, which will be mainly about like NFTs as a technology, right? So we were talking about common good, about social good, how can they be used in various ways. But I wanted to ask, like, what are NFTs for you? What do you think about the technology itself?
Honestly, I love it. And I love having conversations about NFTs because, I think outside of Web3, people don't realize the power of this technology. I was with a friend, and we were having a cocktail at a bar one day, and he said, NFTs are done, man. Bury them, put the concrete over them. They're done. They're not coming back. And I said, why do you say that? Like, what is it about NFTs? He's like, they're just silly pictures that are, like, traded on a blockchain. And I said, they're not just pictures. There's so much more to it than that. And then I started explaining, first and foremost, as a community guy, that's probably the thing I love the most, right? Like, to own something like a piece from the Kusama Kingdom or buddies or chaos DAO apes, you name it. Like there's sort of an exclusivity to having a particular piece that gets you access to a community. And that's especially the case in like Kusama Kingdom, right? Like you get into the Great Hall, and so now you get to meet all these like-minded individuals. So I think the community building thing, which is not really technologically important, but I think it's a huge value proposition for many of the best NFTs because they draw in a community and they create sort of that sense of belonging. So I think that's one. We all know that inevitably, I mean, I think anybody who's in Web3 understands the power of blockchain and that what's being built right now is sort of the rails of the new internet. And at some point in the future, maybe it's the end of the decade or whenever, all these chains are going to be connected, right? Like we're going to have a multi-chain future. This is what Polkadot's working on. We're theoretically going to connect to the Cosmos ecosystem. And I think as all these things start to become integrated and a lot of the UI issues that people experience now get abstracted away, they're going to be using NFTs without even realizing that they're using NFTs. We're already starting to see it. Like when the most recent Spider-Man movie came out, for instance, like if you had your ticket, you got an NFT like dropped to you. And it's almost like an open mint, but it's still like if you're a collector, if you like having those little mementos, like I am an old man, right? I'm going to be 48 this year. I still to this day love saving my concert tickets. Like I have a big fat stack of some of my favorite concert tickets going all the way back to like the late 80s. And now, with the tokenization that's going to happen in the future, we're already starting to see it, right? Like you have you're now there's not even physical tickets anymore. You have like a mobile pass that you download and you add to your wallet. And I'm sure all these things are going to become tokenized. One of the guys that I know I'm here in Tampa, Florida, and a place that I joined is called New Wealth Collab. And they're real estate primarily, but they're also highly interested in Web3. And my friend Andrew, he actually sold the first house via NFT in the United States in Gulfport, Florida. And then when I reached out to him, he had a second one that was for sale in, I think, Tarpon Springs. And so we're already starting to see the tokenization of real estate assets. And I think this trend is going to continue because we know that the blockchain is far more secure than any of the traditional rails like TCP/IP, right? And like, email is so easily hacked. It's not easy to hack the blockchain. And so when you have proof of ownership and things like that for, experiences or physical assets, I think this is really game changing. And people who are not in Web3 don't understand this because they just see Bored Ape Yacht Club and they think, oh, it's a monkey JPEG. No, I mean, it is, yes, there is some truth to that. And we're also seeing an emerging of different kinds of standards on NFTs, right? Like you have just your basic kind of ERC 721 or 1155. It's just a flat thing, but look at all the things that have been built in our ecosystem, right? I mean, we have platforms like Codadot and Singular. We have composable NFTs because of Remark technology or Unique. They're working on different palettes, and so we have this composability. We have like these really edge cases here in our ecosystem that I think are going to flourish and proliferate beyond it. And I'd be willing to bet in maybe 3 to 5 years, everybody's going to come around to NFTs or at least have a basic understanding that it is something more than just a JPEG. Because I think that's the way that most of the world looks at it right now. I mean, the reality is, what is it? 4% of the world owns, cryptocurrencies or any kind of tokens. So when you think about how small the population size is in comparison to the entire world, I mean, what's gonna be like when 4 billion people have tokens? And there's going to be it's just so easy to do tokens, especially as blockchain, proof of stake. The energy is much lower. You don't have that big carbon footprint of Bitcoin. And so, and that's another misnomer too, that people are like, oh, NFTs, it uses all this energy to mint. And it's like, no, it doesn't, especially here in Polkadot, right? Like we are, widely touted as the most environmentally friendly blockchain, protocol or ecosystem. So I think that once the word starts to get out and people really understand what's happening with NFTs and the amazing use cases that exist, I think people will come around, because right now, if we're being honest, so much of it is speculation, right? Like people just want to buy that because number go up and I'm going to make some money. Whereas like I treat them very much like an investment because I know that this is something long term that is going to be, really important. And on top of that, like Kusama Kingdom, keep coming back to this as an example. It's financially backed. Like we actually have the king's bounty and the queen's jewels. So each of those NFTs is backed by real money in sort of like a investment war chest that we're just continuing to grow. So I think you're going to see more use cases pop up or things on the periphery that add value to NFTs, and it's just a matter of time before people really figure out what's going on, and hopefully everybody will be on board. One way or another, I think it's going to happen because of the tokenization of our world.
Yeah, I mean, this always reminds me of how early we are to the whole thing, right? When you think about like the percentage and stuff like that, and how it makes sense in the like more broad spectrum of things. So I'm definitely looking forward for, everything that's being built in Polkadot, everything that's being built in, of course, Lucky Friday Labs in TeddyDAO, and yeah. So that's all time we have today for the episode of Kodakast. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation with Phunky from Lucky Friday Labs and TeddyDAO. Their unique perspective and insights shed light on the potential of NFTs and Web3 technology, leaving us with plenty to think about. Thank you, everybody, for joining this episode of Kodakast, and I will see you at the next one.
Thanks,
Thank
Damsky.
you, Teddy. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Take care.